My name is Raymond Ray Harlan. Most folks just call me Ray. Back in my Navy days, 20 years in the reserves, they tagged me with Iron, because I could fix anything mechanical under pressure and never complained about the hours. Turns out that nickname followed me into civilian life, where the pressure came from spreadsheets instead of torpedoes, but the long hours stayed the same. I'd spent 14 solid years at Crestwood Industries, a mid-sized logistics firm out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Started in the warehouse, moved up to ops manager, then director. I built the systems that turned a regional outfit into a company worth north of $750 million. Vendor networks that weathered the '08 crash, backup routes during the port strikes of 2021, compliance checklists that kept the DOT and IRS off our backs. My wife Ellen and I raised 2 kids on that stability. One's a nurse in Raleigh now, the other's finishing engineering school. Every late night, every weekend emergency call, I told myself it was for them. For the future we were building brick by brick. Then the board brought in Ethan Caldwell. Ethan was 27, fresh off an Ivy League MBA, and the nephew of our retiring founder. He showed up his first day in a tailored suit that probably cost what I paid for my last truck, carrying a monogrammed leather briefcase and a smile that said he'd already won. At the all-hands meeting, he leaned into the microphone and said, "We're going to reimagine efficiency, folks. Disrupt the status quo and pivot to agile excellence." I glanced around the conference room. Our CFO, Margaret, 52 with a daughter in med school, raised an eyebrow. Our longtime warehouse supervisor, Hank, who'd been unloading trucks since before Ethan was born, just folded his arms. Nobody needed disruption. We needed reliability. But Ethan had buzzwords, and buzzwords were his currency. Within 10 days, the cracks appeared. He streamlined our vendor onboarding by cutting the background checks, said they slowed velocity. Result: one supplier turned out to be a shell company. We lost $180,000 on undelivered freight before we caught it. He reassigned budget approvals to himself personally, then ghosted every circle-back email like it was a game. Finance couldn't close the books. Legal stalled on 3 major contracts because Ethan kept changing sign-off protocols on a whim. I kept things running, quietly. Weekends fixing what he'd broken during the week. I didn't complain in meetings anymore. Ethan had started labeling me old guard and change-resistant. Instead, I documented every email, every ignored warning, every near miss. I had a folder on my personal drive labeled Insurance. In the Navy, you never go into battle without contingencies. Then the acquisition talks heated up. Vanguard Logistics, a bigger player out of Atlanta, wanted Crestwood for our East Coast routes and our ironclad compliance record. Their due diligence team reached out, specifically to me, not Ethan. A woman named Claire Donovan, their VP of Integration, asked for our continuity playbook. Not the glossy version Ethan had prepared. The real one. I sent it. Password protected. Detailed. Honest. Vendor lists with 20-year relationships, disaster recovery protocols I'd written after Hurricane Florence flooded half our warehouses, the quiet redundancies that kept us profitable when competitors folded. Claire emailed back within 90 minutes. "This is gold, Ray. Mind if I share with Ethan?" I replied, "Best to hold off for now. I'll explain if needed." That one sentence shifted everything. Suddenly I was looped into Vanguard emails I shouldn't have seen, risk assessments flagging leadership misalignment, integration timelines highlighting key ops personnel retention, notes mentioning my name more than once. Claire started asking me direct questions. "Ray, your take on the Q4 freight forecast under current structure?" Not Ethan's take. Mine. Then came the late-night email. No subject. Just an attachment. Crestwood Transition Framework. Internal draft. I opened it at 11:47 p.m. while Ellen slept. Buried on page 12, Section 4B, Operational continuity during transition shall require approval from a designated continuity officer, to be appointed by the acquiring entity. Authority includes final say on personnel assignments impacting core functions. The name field was blank, like a seat waiting to be filled. I saved it. Didn't tell a soul. But I started paying closer attention. Ethan, meanwhile, brought in his fraternity brother, Tyler Voss, as Chief Innovation Strategist. Tyler arrived with noise-canceling headphones, a podcast mic, and a vision board full of words like leverage and disrupt. His first move? He optimized our payment processing by removing 2 fraud prevention steps required by federal banking regs. 3 days later, our biggest carrier locked us out of their system over a $400,000 hold. Payment stuck in limbo. Their rep showed up at our loading dock threatening liens. I found Ethan and Tyler in the break room, laughing over energy drinks. "We have a carrier freeze," I said flatly. Ethan waved me off. "Ray, focus on execution, not excuses. Innovation means risk. Let the big picture breathe." I walked away. Stopped volunteering fixes. Stopped warning. Just watched. And documented. 3 weeks later, our primary rail partner let a contract lapse. Tyler thought auto-renew meant no paperwork. We had 48 hours before they bumped us to secondary status. Margaret, our CFO, called me in tears at 7 a.m. "Ray, do we have backups?" I did. I'd quietly maintained a shadow list since Ethan's first week. I sent it to her. No CC to Ethan. No fanfare. Claire noticed. She messaged me privately, "You hanging in there?" I replied, "Hanging. Check section 4B in the framework draft. Might be worth a look." She didn't reply right away, but the next morning, I got invited to an informal continuity sync with Vanguard's team. Off calendar. 15 minutes. I went. They asked questions. I answered with facts, dashboards, audit trails. No drama. No complaints about Ethan. Just truth. 1 call became 2. Then 4. By the 3rd, Claire had their legal counsel on the line. They weren't calling it informal anymore. They called it a transition readiness review. Then Claire asked the question that stopped my heart for a second. "Ray, if you could design the ideal role for yourself to see this integration through safely, what would it look like?" I didn't hesitate. Interim Director of Transition Operations. Bridge the gap until everything's stable. 90 days, maybe less. Just enough to hand it off clean. She nodded on the video feed. Understood. 2 days later, a Vanguard attorney emailed me a draft document. Crestwood Vanguard Transition Addendum. Internal review only. I opened it. Skipped to page 12. Section 4B. The blank name field now read, Raymond Harlan. Checked. I stared at my own name like it was written in someone else's handwriting. They hadn't asked me to fight for it. They'd just done it. Quietly. Legally. Meanwhile, Ethan was hosting vision workshops with bean bags and kombucha. He had no idea. I printed a new business card on heavy stock. Simple. Professional. Raymond Harlan. Interim Director. Transition Operations. Vanguard Logistics. I slipped it into my wallet. And waited. The final closing meeting was set for a Thursday morning in the executive boardroom. Mahogany table, leather chairs, view of the loading yard where I'd started 14 years earlier. Ethan strutted in like he owned the place. New suit, fresh haircut, PowerPoint ready, Crestwood 2.0, agile, unified, unstoppable. He thanked everyone for their adaptability. Then he got to me. "Ray Harlan has been a steady hand," he said, smiling like he was granting a favor. "He'll be transitioning out over the next few weeks as we bring in fresh perspectives." Silence. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the card, and slid it across the table to Vanguard CEO Victor Lang. Victor picked it up. "Read it." Then he laughed. Not cruel, but the laugh of a man who just heard the perfect punchline. Ethan's smile froze. "Something amusing?" Victor passed the card to Claire. She smiled wide. Then Victor opened the addendum. Slowly, deliberately, to page 12. Victor Lang didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room was already holding its breath. He tapped the open page of the addendum with one finger, right on section 4B. "Raymond Harlan," he read aloud, slow and clear, like he was confirming a winning lottery ticket. "Designated Continuity Officer. Final authority on all operational personnel decisions during the 90-day transition window. Authority non-overridable by interim or acting executives without board ratification." Ethan's face drained of color faster than I'd seen a ship take on water in rough seas. His mouth worked, but no sound came out at first. Then, this can't be right. I signed the main agreement. Legal reviewed it. There was nothing. Claire Donovan cut in, calm as a surgeon mid-incision. You signed the full packet, Mr. Caldwell, including the transition addendum. Page 17 has your signature, right below the clause referencing section 4b. It's not hidden. It's just detailed. Victor leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. We don't put people like Ray in these roles by accident. Crestwood's value isn't in the trucks or the warehouses. It's in the systems that keep everything moving without drama. Systems Ray built. Systems your team, he glanced at Ethan and Tyler, who was now staring at his shoes, has been steadily undermining for 2 months. Ethan tried to rally. Ray reports to me. I'm the acting CEO during this phase. I've been running point on integration. This is a misunderstanding. We can clarify. No need to clarify, Victor said. The language is unambiguous. Ray has final say on ops staffing for the next 90 days. That includes any reassignments, terminations, or restructurings that touch core functions. Which, last I checked, is just about everything here. I hadn't spoken yet. I didn't need to. The document was doing the talking. Tyler shifted in his seat, the squeak loud in the quiet room. Our HR director, Linda, suddenly found the grain in the mahogany table fascinating. Margaret, our CFO, sat perfectly still, but I caught the tiniest upward curve at the corner of her mouth. Ethan turned to me directly, voice cracking just a little. Ray, you knew? You planned this? I met his eyes. Steady. No anger. Just fact. I didn't plan anything, Ethan. I answered questions when asked. I sent the real playbook when requested. I documented risks when I saw them. You told me to stay in my lane more than once. So I did. And I read what I signed, or in your case, what you signed without reading. Victor's attorney slid a thin folder across the table toward Ethan. One sheet inside. Effective immediately, your role is reassigned. Same compensation band, different responsibilities. You'll relocate to our Birmingham distribution center. Night shift coordinator, warehouse operations, forklift scheduling, dock management, inventory audits. Hands-on learning. We believe strongly in building operational experience from the ground up. Ethan stared at the paper like it might catch fire. Birmingham? Night shift? That's not executive level. I have an MBA. I've been leading. And Ray has 14 years of actual results, Victor said evenly. We value results over titles. You'll report to the site manager there. Shift starts at 6 p.m., ends at 6 a.m. Thursday through Monday. Birmingham winters can be damp. Pack accordingly. The room stayed quiet long enough for the air conditioning to feel loud. Ethan's hands trembled as he held the letter. Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear into the carpet. I finally spoke. My voice came out even, measured. I appreciate the trust, Victor. I'll make sure the handover is seamless. No disruptions to vendors, no compliance gaps, no surprises for the team. Victor nodded once. That's why you're here, Ray. Claire handed me an envelope. Thick stock. Vanguard logo. Inside, official appointment letter, 90-day term, with extension option. Salary adjustment that would finally let Ellen and me breathe easier. No more scraping by on tuition payments, and a new ID badge. Raymond Harlan. Interim Director. Transition Operations. I clipped it to my shirt pocket. The soft click felt louder than any boardroom argument. Ethan tried one last time. This is retaliation. You can't just. It's not retaliation, Claire said. It's continuity. Your decisions created avoidable risk. The addendum protects against that. You signed it. We enforced it. Victor stood. Meeting over. People filed out. Handshakes all around. Professional, quick. When it was my turn, Victor gripped my hand firm. Welcome aboard, Ray. Let's keep the machine running. I nodded. Yes, sir. Behind me, Ethan was still standing, letter in hand. As I passed, he whispered, Ray, wait. I paused at the door. You set me up, he said, voice low and broken. You knew the whole time. I looked at him. 27 years old, suit still perfect, but the confidence gone. I didn't set anyone up. I tried to warn you. Multiple times. You said innovation meant ignoring the basics. You sidelined the people who knew the work. You signed documents without reading them. That's not a setup. That's consequences. He swallowed hard. What do I do now? Show up in Birmingham. On time. Listen more than you talk. Learn the ops from the dock level. Might surprise you what you find there. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked out. The hallway felt different. Lighter. I stopped by my old desk, just for a moment, and looked around. The team was starting to trickle in for the day. Hank from the warehouse gave me a nod from across the floor. Margaret caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." I grabbed my laptop and the few personal items I'd kept there. No big scene. No gloating. Back home that evening, Ellen was in the kitchen when I walked in. She turned, saw my face, and knew something had shifted. "Good meeting?" she asked, cautious. I held up the new badge. "Better than good." She read it. Her eyes widened. Then she smiled, slow, real, the kind that reaches her eyes after years of worry lines. "Dinner out tonight?" I asked. "That Italian place you like. The one with the tiramisu." She laughed softly. "We can afford it?" "Yeah," I said, pulling her close. "We can afford it." Later, over wine that didn't come from the bottom shelf, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This is Ethan. I start in Birmingham next week." I get it now. What you were trying to say. "I'm sorry." I showed Ellen the text. She read it, then looked at me. "You going to answer?" I thought about it. Kid was young. Arrogant, sure. But 27 is young enough to learn, if you're willing. I typed back, "Show up early. Wear comfortable shoes. Ask questions. The work will teach you more than any MBA ever could. Good luck." He replied almost instantly, "Thanks, Ray." That was the last I heard from him for a while. The next morning, I walked into the office. Not my old desk, but the temporary transition office Vanguard had set up. Claire was already there with coffee. "Ready to fix what needs fixing?" she asked. I nodded. "Been ready for months." We started with the vendor list. Then compliance restoration. Then documenting everything so the permanent team could take over clean. It wasn't glamorous. No beanbags or vision boards. Just work. Real work. The kind I'd always done. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like the system was finally working the way it was supposed to. The first few weeks after the meeting felt like stepping onto solid ground after months of walking on shifting sand. I didn't move into a corner office with a view. Vanguard didn't believe in theatrics. They gave me a quiet conference room on the third floor. Same building, same fluorescent lights I'd known for 14 years, but now with a door that locked and a whiteboard that actually got used for planning instead of doodling buzzwords. Claire Donovan became my main point of contact. She flew down from Atlanta twice a week at first. Sleeves rolled up, no nonsense. We started with the basics. Vendor relationships. The biggest carrier, the one Tyler had frozen with his optimized payment system, was still on edge. Their regional manager, a guy named Lou I'd known since my warehouse days, had been polite but firm on our last call. "Ray, we've been partners 15 years. But we can't keep extending terms if the checks don't clear on time." I called him personally that Monday morning. No corporate script. Just straight talk. "Lou, it's Ray Harlan. I'm back in the driver's seat on ops for the transition. The migration mess is being unwound today. Your invoices are prioritized. First batch wires this afternoon. I'm putting your account back on preferred status, same discount tier we had before all this started. And I'm sending over the updated compliance certs by end of day." Silence on the line for a beat. Then Lou exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the freeze. "Appreciate it, Ray. Truth is, we were ready to pull routes. Glad it's you handling this." We talked another 10 minutes, about grandkids, about the new warehouse they were building in Savannah, about how the industry had changed since we both started hauling freight. By the time we hung up, the relationship wasn't just repaired, it felt stronger. Loyalty like that doesn't come from PowerPoints. It comes from showing up, year after year, and keeping your word. Next was compliance. The cloud migration Ethan had bragged about on Slack had locked out half our legal archives. Tax forms, DOT filings, customs declarations, everything critical for interstate and cross-border loads, was either inaccessible or corrupted in the new system. Our legal counsel had already flagged it to the board as a material risk. I brought in the two people who knew the old system best. Margaret from finance and an IT specialist named Carla who'd been with Crestwood since the dial-up days. We worked weekends for 3 straight weeks, mapping every broken workflow, restoring backups from my personal archive. Yes, I'd kept offline copies, rebuilding access controls the right way. Carla looked at me over her laptop one Sunday afternoon, coffee going cold. You really documented everything, didn't you? Habit from the Navy, I said. You don't leave a ship without knowing where the life rafts are. She smiled. Good thing, because this would have been a 6-month nightmare without your notes. By the end of the month, the compliance dashboard was green again. Auditors came in, ran their tests, and left with nothing but nods. No fines. No delays. The acquisition stayed on track. Meanwhile, word spread quietly among the team. Hank, the warehouse supervisor, stopped by my temporary office one afternoon with a thermos of coffee. Black, no sugar, the way I liked it. Folks down on the dock are talking, he said, settling into the chair across from me. They're relieved. Said it feels like the adults are back in charge. I chuckled. Tell them we're just trying to keep the trucks rolling. No hero stuff. He leaned forward. Ray, you didn't have to stay quiet as long as you did. Could have blown the whistle months ago. I thought about it, I admitted. But blowing things up isn't the same as fixing them. I wanted the company to survive the transition. The people here deserve that. Hank nodded slowly. You've got a lot of folks who'd follow you anywhere now. That hit me harder than I expected. Not pride, exactly. More like responsibility. These weren't just employees. They were families, mortgages, kids in college, parents needing care. I'd always known that, but after watching Ethan treat the place like a startup playground, it felt heavier. Evenings at home became different too. Ellen noticed first. I wasn't coming through the door exhausted and silent anymore. I talked about the day, small wins, problems solved, people thanking me. She started setting the table nicer, lighting candles some nights. One Friday she surprised me with pot roast, the recipe her mother used to make. You look lighter, she said, passing the potatoes. Like you're breathing again. I am, I told her. For the first time in 2 years. Our son called from school that weekend. He'd heard rumors through a friend whose dad still worked at Crestwood. Dad, is it true you basically took over? I laughed. Not took over. Just made sure it didn't fall apart. He was quiet a second. I'm proud of you. Mom said you got a raise big enough we don't have to worry about next semester. That's right. And maybe a little extra for you to take your girlfriend out somewhere nice. He groaned, embarrassed, but I could hear the smile. Our daughter, the nurse, texted later. Heard you're the hero of the hour. Don't let it go to your head, old man. But seriously, proud. I saved both messages in a folder I called Reasons. About 6 weeks in, Claire pulled me aside after a status meeting. Victor's impressed, she said. The board's talking about extending beyond 90 days. Possibly making it permanent. Full Director of Operations Integration, with equity. I didn't jump at it. I'll think about it. I want to make sure the handoff is clean first. She studied me. You're not the type to chase titles, are you? Titles are temporary, I said. The work lasts. She smiled. That's why they want you. Around the same time, I got another text from Ethan. Week 4 in Birmingham. Night shift is brutal, but I'm learning. The guys on the dock showed me how to spot a bad pallet wrap before it collapses. Never knew that mattered so much. Thanks for the advice. I stared at the screen a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the part that remembered being 27 and thinking I knew everything, couldn't. I wrote back, "Keep showing up. Ask the old-timers questions. They'll teach you more in a month than school ever did. Stay safe on the docks." His reply came quick, "Will do. And Ray, I really am sorry. For everything." I didn't respond again. Some lessons need time to settle. By the end of month 2, the major fires were out. Vendors were paid and happy. Compliance was airtight. The team had stabilized, turnover dropped, morale ticked up in the quiet way you measure in logistics. Fewer sick calls, more voluntary overtime. I started documenting the transition playbook, not for Vanguard, but for whoever came after me. Every fix, every lesson, every person who stepped up when it mattered. If nothing else, I wanted the next person in this seat to have a map instead of a blank page. One evening, walking to my truck after a long day, I passed the loading dock. Lights were still on, night crew moving pallets under the sodium lamps. Hank was there, clipboard in hand, directing a forklift. He saw me and raised a hand. I raised mine back. No words needed. Just the quiet rhythm of work being done right. That was enough. The 90 days came and went like a quiet tide. Steady, predictable, no drama. By the time the transition window closed, Crestwood had been fully folded into Vanguard Logistics without a single major hitch. No lost contracts. No regulatory flags. No panicked vendor calls at 3 a.m. The integration report Claire presented to the board was clean. Green across every metric. Operational continuity score. 98.7%. The decimal point mattered more than the headline number. It meant the machine was humming exactly as it should. Victor Lang called me personally the day after the report dropped. No video, just voice on the line, the way old-school executives still prefer when the news is good. "Ray, the board voted this morning. We're making the role permanent. Director of Operations Integration. Full stop. Equity package. Reporting directly to me. You want it." I sat in my truck in the parking lot, engine off, staring at the loading dock where the night crew was just starting their shift. Lights cutting through the dusk, forklifts moving in that familiar rhythm. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was unsure. Because I wanted to feel the weight of it. 14 years of showing up. 14 years of missed family dinners, of Ellen waiting up with coffee gone cold, of explaining to the kids why Dad had to work another weekend. 14 years building something real, only to watch someone try to tear it down in 2 months flat. And now this. "Yeah," I said finally. "I want it. But on one condition." Victor chuckled softly. "Name it." "I stay based here in Charlotte. No relocation. I've got roots. Family. People who count on me showing up in person, not on a screen from Atlanta." "Done," he said without hesitation. "We need you where the work happens anyway." We talked details for another 10 minutes. Salary, benefits, start date. When we hung up, I sat there a while longer, letting it sink in. Then I called Ellen. She picked up on the second ring. "Everything okay?" "Better than okay," I said. "They made it permanent. Full director. I'm staying right here." There was a pause. Long enough that I could picture her hand going to her mouth the way it does when something big lands. Then she laughed, soft and shaky. "Ray Harlan, you stubborn old sailor. You did it." "We did it," I corrected. "You put up with a lot of late nights for this." "Come home," she said. "I'm opening that bottle we've been saving since the kids graduated high school." I smiled into the phone. "On my way." That night we sat on the back porch. Same wicker chairs we'd bought when the mortgage was new, same string lights Ellen hung every Christmas. The wine was good, the kind you sip slow because you know it's special. We didn't talk much at first. Just sat and listened to the crickets and the distant hum of the interstate. Eventually she leaned her head on my shoulder. "You never gloated, you know. Not once. Even when that boy got sent to Birmingham." "Didn't feel like gloating," I said. "Felt like justice. Quiet kind. The kind that sticks." She squeezed my hand. "You taught him something. Whether he admits it or not. Maybe. Or maybe he just learned what happens when you sign your name without reading the fine print. We both laughed at that. Low, easy, the laugh of people who've been through storms and come out the other side. A few months later, I got an unexpected email. From Ethan Caldwell. Subject. Update. Ray. I'm 6 months into Birmingham now. Still nights, still docks. But I asked for the extension myself. The site manager, guy named Marcus, has been showing me the ropes. Real ropes. How to read a manifest by flashlight, how to spot a driver who's too tired to be safe, how one bad pallet can shut down a whole lane. I thought I knew logistics from case studies. I didn't know anything. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know I'm listening now. Really listening. And I remember what you said, the work teaches you more than school ever could. Thanks for not writing me off completely. Ethan. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Ellen with one line, kid might turn out okay. She wrote back, told you. I didn't reply to Ethan right away. But a week later, I sent a short note. Ethan. Glad you're sticking with it. Marcus is one of the best. Learn everything you can from him. One piece of advice. Keep a notebook. Write down what goes right and what goes wrong. Review it every Sunday. You'll see patterns faster than you think. Stay safe out there. Ray. No fanfare. No lecture. Just a nudge. The company kept running. Better, actually. Turnover in operations dropped 22% that year. Vendor satisfaction scores hit all-time highs. The board started using Harlan protocols in other integrations. Quiet praise, but praise nonetheless. I still get up at 5:30 most mornings. Still drink black coffee from the same thermos I've had since the Navy. Still walk the floor once a week, talking to the drivers, the loaders, the dispatchers. They don't call me sir or director. They call me Ray. And that's fine by me. Some evenings, Ellen and I sit on that porch again. The kids come visit when they can. Grandkids now too, running around the yard like we used to. We talk about the old days, the hard days, the days we almost lost it all. But mostly we talk about now. About how sometimes the longest way around is the surest way home. I never set out to win a corporate war. I just wanted to keep the lights on. Keep people working. Keep promises I'd made to my family and to the folks who showed up every day. Turns out that was enough. More than enough. One night, after the grandkids had gone to bed and the house was quiet, Ellen looked at me across the kitchen table. You ever think about retiring? She asked. I thought about it. Really thought. Not yet, I said. There's still work to do. And I'm pretty good at it. She smiled that slow smile I fell in love with 40 years ago. Yes, you are. And that was it. No grand speeches. No victory parades. Just a man who did his job, protected what mattered, and lived long enough to see the system finally reward the right things. Experience over flash. Competence over connections. Quiet work over loud promises. Sometimes, if you wait long enough and keep your head down, the wheel turns. And when it does, you don't need to shout. You just keep walking forward. One steady step at a time.